So, how bad is the poverty or the quality of life there? Can you give us some examples of what it's like?
Okay, so some examples. Well, first of all, only rich people can afford air conditioner. Um, Again, this is when I was growing up. I don't know what the situation is like as of now. I left the country in 2021, but until that moment, only the rich people could afford an air conditioner. That was a luxury. Um, my family, we like my parents were university professors, but we couldn't afford a car. We couldn't afford an air conditioner. We, you know, that kind of thing. Like we couldn't even afford a motorcycle. You know, so my parents had to hitchhike to go to their job. Every morning, and that's a big thing in Cuba because there are so many. There's not a lot of cars. So again, like most of the like Cuba has the old cars, not because people just like antiques. It's just because
Because they look pretty in photos.
yeah, no, it's not because of that. It's because we cannot afford new cars. And yeah,
Well, sorry, just to clarify,
mhm.
um, a new car's even imported into the island?
There are some new cars that are imported, but the government sells them extremely expensively.
Mm.
Their prices are insane. The price of a normal car that would cost like $5,000 in the US is like $30,000 in Cuba. So like no one can afford that.
What's the housing situation like? Do people own property?
Lately, yes, there's more buying because a lot of people are leaving the country and they're selling everything. But before, people just, I mean, usually what people do is just move with they don't move with their parents, they just live with their parents forever. Like, so we have like three generations of people living in the same house. And then tourists come and they say, wow, look at Cubans, they love their families so much. It's like, it's not because we don't want to get independent, it's just because we cannot afford to do that. And another thing is that tourists come and they see the Cuban reality through their own eyes, and they say, wow, Cubans like to recycle so much. And in reality is that we cannot afford anything, therefore we have to recycle everything. um, they see the kids on the streets playing barefoot. They say, wow, what a beautiful childhood. But we're playing on the streets because we don't have anywhere else to play for the most part, and also because there are no cars because no one can afford a car. So it's interesting because when you look at pictures of Cuba in the 1940s or 1950s, it looked like New York. It's like vibrant, like all of the cars, the streets full of people. Nowadays, it looks like Gaza. It looks like we have had a war there. Like everything is in ruins. It is
And is
terrible.
it safe?
No, it is not safe. It is very violent. It's much more violent than in the U.S. The difference is we don't have guns, so people get killed with knives and machetes instead. But it's very violent. Of course, it depends where you go. During the day, it's mostly safe in most parts, but at night it's not safe. And also, I mean, it's safe also if you're a tourist, um, because the government takes care of, like, you know in a certain way, like they punish people who do things to tourists harsher than people who do things to other Cubans. But I've known cases of people like getting killed for a watch or for a bicycle, and that's very, very common, and I've heard it many times, which was not the case before the revolution.
And what about for women? What's it like as a Cuban woman?
Well, I cannot speak for women from what I've experienced,
No, you can't.
from what I've seen. There's a lot more violence against women, because the Cuban culture, also because of the revolution, has stagnated in the 1960s. So there's no like there has not been a feminist movement or anything like that, and also there has not been a movement against racism in Cuba, which there is a lot of racism, and it's simply because, according to the regime, these issues were solved with the revolution. Therefore, there's no reason to you know to to do anything about it, or to say, or to discuss it. And I've heard feminists in the U.S. side, that the Cuban parliament has more women than the U.S. parliament. Cubans are so progressive. Well, the power they have is absolutely like, um, it's a puppet. Like, it's not real power. Uh, So like, you can have like 100% women in your parliament. Like, at the end, what power do they have? They don't have voice, anything.
Mm. And when tourists go to Cuba, they see the beautiful beaches, things like this. Do everyday Cubans get access to the beach?
No, I mean, maybe it seems like I'm like saying everything negative, but that's a reality I lived. My family lived in Camagüey. It's a province to the east, and we got to go to the beach like once a year, and we live 2 hours from the beach. So, and it's a beautiful beach. Like, Cuba is a beautiful country. That's not a lie. But Cubans don't get to enjoy it. And I've met so many people in the U.S. saying, "Wow, I've gone to Varadero twice. I went to Guardalavaca. I went to Valle de Viñales. It's the most beautiful country ever." And I'm like, "Wow, I was never able to go to any of those places." So
How do Cubans feel about tourists?
Cubans feel I think most Cubans actually like that we have tourists, because that's a way of earning some cash. That's a way of getting some cash, or potentially leave the country. And that's also, it's unfortunate, but many Cubans try to marry anyone who goes to the island, just to get out. It's a thing. But overall, it's positive. It's the only chance they have to get some money. That's why taxi drivers are so well paid in some cases.
Is there sex tourism? Do people come there
Definitely,
to? Mm,
definitely, there is sex tourism. I think Cuba is famous for that. Unfortunately, it's like, I think, like Thailand, in that, it's like there are many people who go there just to have sex. And I've heard stories of, you know minors getting into that thing, just for money. It's disgusting, but it's a reality. And that wasn't the case before. That wasn't the case before Castro. There were brothels, but whoever was there was a small portion of the society, and they were not. It was not something normal. You know what I mean? Nowadays, it's something normal, and something that is ingrained in the Cuban culture, like the whole prostitution thing. There are many books. If you read any book of like modern contemporary Cuban literature, it's full of experiences that have to do with misery, sadness, nostalgia, or and prostitution. Like, there are many, many titles that you can find. You just get a book and read it, and you will see
mm.
all that.